Hi. So I got this microphone a while ago because I was going to make a podcast for my boyfriend because he likes to fall asleep to podcasts, but specifically the conversation bit of it. And even though I've recorded a lot of it by myself, I've also been doing it with friends, and I'm scheduling to do it with more friends, even though I don't have like many at all, at all. But that's besides the point. I thought it would be fun to do it this way. And as you know, I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube and then take it down after you do this. So I really hope that this is something that you graded. Because yes, I post on TikTok, but I don't use it for school projects, So I'm going to try to make this quick and not 85 billion years long so that it uploads, loads, and all of those good grand things. And you don't have to take too much time out of your day to grade it, because there has not been a grade put in since September 11th, which is a perfect day to take grades. I'm sorry. But I hope that, because I want to take it down as soon as possible, but I understand you're a teacher and you got other things to do and other classes to grade and all of those good grand old things, but I don't want this up there for too long. It's okay though. Anyway, so I'm doing this simultaneously getting ready for work. I already brushed my teeth and washed my face so that the running water wasn't really annoying getting in here. Ignore that my bathroom might be a little messy. That I did not know that you need to turn on a fan before you shower. That can be dealt with. I do not, in fact, have to take out the whole ceiling like my boyfriend said I would have to. You just got to spray with some chemical. But I don't know what that chemical is. So my mommy has to do it because I don't know what I'm doing right now with that. I don't know what to do with that. And I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to play with chemicals and mold by myself and barely knowing what I'm doing, even if I'm given instructions, you know what I mean? Anyways, so I kind of ran into the same problem that everybody else did, which is that there is not a lot of information about these people, mostly because they're way obscure, or maybe it's just my girl because what she did, I chose parenting and child development because specifically what this lady deals with is something that I was just looking into. So I'm not gonna just be talking about her information because there was not a lot. So I'm gonna do it with also my outside research and talk about those things as well, because I like to research in my free time, believe it or not. I'm that kind of guy. I have a personality and I care about school. That was so cringy and I wish I didn't do that, but I'm not going to cut it out and I'm not going to do a new take. Anyways, so my lady is Stacey Patton. And this woman has a PhD in nothing that she specializes in, how she expresses it, which is digital media literacy and graphic media stuff. There's 4 of them, and one of them is digital media literacy. But she's from the United States. She's still alive. She was born in 1978, I believe, at the top of my head, late 1970s. She got her master's from Rutgers University in 2011. So can't remember what year she was born, but I know the year that she graduated from the master's college. You know what I mean? But her major, she did a lot of writing and publishing. She wrote books about the Jim Crow era. She wrote she wrote about corporal punishment. She wrote for the New York Times, for the Washington Post, for a lot of other things, BBC as well, and a long list of other less popular news sources. Definitely not Fox though. Anyway. So I also didn't finish wiping off my mascara. It's all right. We're going to keep doing that. She also made appearances on various news channels such as CNN, ABC, BBC, and Democracy Now! And another one that I just didn't write down because it's not popular. So who cares? Point is, she made appearance on multiple and more than I listed. I just wanted to name the more significant ones. And so, sorry if you like hear me breathing like incredibly loud at the maximum volume, but yes. But in terms of like what she does with this like information is she like specializes in the overprescription of psychotropic drugs for children of color in foster care. And I know that's like extremely niche, but like if it's a problem, it's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I got my own extremely niche problems that I can't think of at the top of my head to be funny, but you know, that's something. She also, you know, corporal punishment by public schools, especially namely for children of color, child poverty for children of color, things like that. Basically, I don't want to say criminalizing. It's not because like they make them illegal. It's like that they actively like treat them or try to get them to become criminals. The public school slash foster care to jail pipeline, that number 2 she talks about. And she'll go country to country to like to give professional training in child development, basically, and advice and those kinds of things, which is pretty cool. I'm not really sure how you go about that exactly. Like, what do you have, like a class for parents who are abusive? Like, you have to know that you're abusive or something? Or is it like, you know, like how if you get enough points on your license, you have to go to like driving rehab? You know what I mean? Like, is it like parents who are aware that they're abusive and want to become better? Because parents who are abusive are not going to admit that they're abusive, or they don't think that they are. You know, it's like, oh my God, I beat my child whenever they were a child. I beat my child whenever they were like growing up, and now they won't talk to me. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, that's how my parents raised me. Like, what did I do wrong? You know what I mean? It's like that type of dealios. So I don't know how she really goes about that. There's really not much on that, but I would love to talk about the child poverty thing, because I would like to make it well aware that 10.8 million children in the United States live in poverty. Like, if you hear the percentage, it's like, oh, like 3.6%. Actually, that's the unemployment rate as of 2022. But yeah, all of these statistics I'm about to give you are as of 2022. So get a load of that number as you hear this. The unemployment rate is 3.6%. That is over 12 million people. See, you hear the percentage, doesn't sound that bad. Sounds great. Oh, only 3.6%? That's awesome. But then you realize that is 12 million individual people. 9 million, 3/4, 75% of those people do not get unemployment insurance. I mostly felt, and I know this isn't like entirely on topic, but like, hear me out. I was thinking about this because I've seen a couple, like, I know what hostile architecture is, and if you don't know, it's whenever the government takes $36,000 out of each individual taxpayer's taxes and uses that money to criminalize homeless people. This includes putting spikes under bridges. Like, anywhere in any public space, they put up things to inhibit homeless people from setting up a homeless camp, you know, like a place to sleep for the night in as safe as a possible space they could be in, because homeless shelters, you know, sound like a good idea, but no money gets put towards them. It's like when you hand somebody an unsharpened pencil and they don't know how to sharpen it. You know what I mean? You tell them to like write out, like solve calculus or something. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like, bruh, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's like, oh yes, we did this, and now we're gonna leave it alone and forget about it. So, you know, they'll put up posters to encourage civilians, you know, homed people, to report homeless camps, because that is so bothersome. That takes away out of everybody's day. I know for a fact, if you've ever walked past a homeless camp, you're like, oh, that's a homeless camp, and then you go on with your day and you go to sleep without it in mind. So I don't understand like why it's such a big deal for someone to set up like a homeless camp. Like, I don't care, you know what I mean? Like, like, bruh. Anyway, So yeah, those unemployed people, 75% of them, 9 million people are unemployed without unemployment insurance. And 11.2 or 5, I think it's 11.5% of people in America are living in poverty and fall below the poverty threshold. I love these numbers because it would also cost $20 billion to solve homelessness and $10,051 out of taxpayers' money a year to house it takes $10,051 to house an individual homeless person for a year. Meanwhile, it costs $36,000 to criminalize homeless people, like a homeless person for a year. So, I just feel like that ratio just doesn't really make any sense, and I don't understand. From that, I don't understand what we gain, and I don't want to hear that inflation BS, because listen to this number: it would cost $20 billion to solve homelessness, while Americans spend $35 billion, more than $35 billion, on gym memberships. So these are just my opinions. I also want to go back to let's talk about the of color, okay? Obviously, I'm not sure of the exact number at the top of my head, but I did this research like a couple days ago from, I want to say NPR.org. Or no, it was census.gov. That's what it was. So there's that. You get your reliable resource right there. I never use .com. If I absolutely have to, I will use .com. But 99.999% of the times there's going to be a .gov, .org, .edu. So, but .orgs can also be biased depending on the organization. So like, if it's like Donald Trump jerkcircle.org, it's not going to be, reliable. So anyway, so obviously by census.gov, people of color are in significantly more poverty, or like the ratio of colored people to white people struggling with poverty is obviously a big gap. It's like 4% or something like that. It's like a 4% gap. And we already know that can be like 12 million people. So, which I can get into how that kind of started, starting with slavery and sharecropping, and, the police starting as night watchers, to catch slaves trying to escape, and those good things, that evolved to whenever I was driving through a low-class neighborhood, obviously predominantly black neighborhood, and then at the edge of the neighborhood, out of every single corner of that town, that is where they put a courthouse, at the edge of a predominantly black neighborhood. Now tell me something. The city planners exist, and they looked at an entire map of the town, and they saw a predominantly black neighborhood and said, yes, that is the spot for a courthouse. Now tell me what, because you can say, now listen, I do agree with ACAP. Now this purpose is because it really stands for all cops are corrupted by a corrupt system, is kind of what I mean. I'm not saying all cops are racist, okay? It's just like they all work for a corrupt system is basically what that boils down to, because let me tell you something. A black man will get like a sentence. There's it's a number. It's like 1.4 to like 2 times as long. Okay, so like if a white person robs a bank, he's going to get a shorter sentence than a black guy who does the exact same thing. Okay, that is a fact. I can send you the TikTok of like some previous research on that. So yeah, and we can also talk about how whenever like you're in jail and you have to work to make money for concessions, that is in the Constitution as well. So if you do something wrong, then you have to do labor. You should find out when that amendment was added and see how that lines up with slavery and still trying to keep black people subordinate. So, it's just kind of really a generational cycle, and, and all of those good things. And, not even going to talk about how how 25 or like 24.6% of Native Americans are falling under the poverty threshold. We can talk about that little number too. Now I know this isn't entirely on topic, but let me tell you something about life. I feel very connected with this woman, and this is why I'm talking about her and why I chose her and why I'm talking about the same things that she does, because I really agree. There's not a lot of information on her, so I don't know if this is sufficient. I filled out the whole paper, and I'm not reading off the paper, but I know what I wrote. These are the things that I've written. She's from the United States. But she talks about foster care. I know something about foster care because my ex-girlfriend and my best friend were both in foster care. They might still be. But because last time I spoke with my old best friend, he was with a foster mom. His mom they were siblings, so I dated my best friend's sister. It was cool though. Their mom was a meth head, and she dealt drugs, and they lived in a trap house. They didn't have sheets on their mattresses type thing. They didn't have a doorway. They had a little curtain as a doorway. Floors, needed help. The whole house needed help. And I'm not saying this out of judgment, but this is where foster kids come from. Foster kids come from parents who cannot handle their child. Mental health reasons, drugs, poverty. That's where foster kids come from. And considering the fact that yes, there is a white majority, so obviously there's going to be more white people. It's the thing. It's the same point as white people black people make up 13% of the population, but 50% of the crime. That is so not true. Look up Table 21, FBI.gov. That's absolutely not true. I don't know where that came from, but it's the ratio. That's terrible. It's the incarceration rates of black people to white people. The fact that yes, there are more white people incarcerated, obviously, but if they make up 13% of the population, which they do, why are their numbers as close together as they are? It's that type of question. So obviously there's more white people in foster care. Now my friend was white, but my ex-girlfriend, they had the same mom but different dads. Another issue, they never had a father figure. She was Indian, actually. So they didn't look like anything alike, And yes, so with children of color making up way too much poverty than they should be with their ratios, that's a problem. And with the overprescription of psychotropic drugs, I'm not exactly sure what falls under psychotropic. However, what I do know is I 100% believe that is a thing happening, because tell me why my friend has been prescribed Adderall, Ritalin, Vyvanse, and Adderall XR, 3 of which at the same time, she was taking all 3 at the same time without having an ADHD diagnosis. That is big pharma in the flesh, okay? Because you do not need that much medication if you don't have a diagnosis. She has a therapist, but she does not have a diagnosis. I got diagnosed by a therapist. And I've never taken that much in my life. I only take 10 milligrams of Adderall because I don't need extended release like XR and Vyvanse. And then I take that in the morning, and then I take 40 milligrams of Vyvanse at 1 p.m. So sometimes you might see me taking something. It's because I have to time it correctly because I have school and work and I need it. I have a diagnosis. I've been prescribed by a doctor. I've had countless appointments talking about it. And I can't really give it to the nurse because that takes time out of my class day to go to the nurse, have her get my medication and all of those things. So if I'm not selling it, and I don't want to because I need my medication, why would I, it's like selling somebody your freaking like see, that's like selling somebody your EpiPen, bro. Like that's, you know what I mean? That's like selling somebody, well, actually I can't say insulin because like people do actually abuse insulin to lose weight, which is weird because, well, I wouldn't say that because my mom did like, you know, has been losing weight on insulin. It's because, fun fact, this has nothing to do with the conversation, but I'm just talking about these things because this is some pretty that's going on in the world right now. When my mom was going through chemotherapy and cancer, they put her on steroids, which made her gain like over 100 pounds or something like that. It made her gain like a lot of weight. She was 220 or like 210, something like that, and now she's down 170. So I love my mom. Congratulations to her. That's why I wore my Hungarian flag on October 1st, because I was inspired by the people who were doing it for Hispanic Heritage Month. And it's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that's what my mom dealt with at stage 3C and survived, and I really love her. And she's a first-generation immigrant, moved here whenever she was 32 from Hungary. She survived communism. She was alive and well for the Berlin Wall. So that like whole like food rationing thing and like holidays not being recognized, so you go out and steal a Christmas tree whenever it's Christmas time in the middle of the night through like 20 feet of snow type deal. Yeah, that was very real, you know, so that was a thing. And she also, you know, had to raise 2 kids as a single mom while also taking care of her sick mother and grandmother on one income, which was her own, because both her mom and her grandma had cancer. So like whenever I was asked, what am I celebrating? I said my mom, and that's enough, because I do not need to explain why my mom is the strongest woman that I know. I love my mom. She and I disagree on some things, like using the bathroom during class, because that was not something she was allowed to do. But yeah, I kind of have a goal. Not really. It's more of a dream than a goal, because like I don't foresee it happening. But I would absolutely love to become a governor, because I want to be able to take this money from the government grant. They're called block grants. And it is basically, hey, we have some extra money that we're going to give to you, and you can do whatever you want with it. And you know what I would do with that money? This is inspired from that one time I drove through that predominantly black neighborhood with the courthouse at the end of it. I would take it and I would give that money to start a nonprofit organization to go through those kinds of neighborhoods and cut their yard, you know, do some landscaping, fix the roofing, fix the siding, plumbing, making sure the lights stay on in those neighborhoods, you know, because I just personally feel like if you have money, your lawn gets cut for free. But when you're working 3 jobs and you don't have the time or money to pay for those things, just enough to put food on your plate and keep the water running, not even always keeping the water running, not even always having enough food for everybody in the house, you don't get that kind of, you know, relief. You know, I feel like, now my parents worked very hard, okay, and they worked very hard to get me here, because we were not always fortunate in the way that we are now. And so they worked very hard, and we were lucky to have been doing it while the economy was vulnerable, so it was easy to climb up as fast as they did. I wouldn't say easy, because, you know, my mom was, you know, in chemotherapy while going to med school, while my dad was working 2 jobs while getting his master's, so that he could, you know, start working and save up, and moved out of the lower class to not quite poverty, but lower class in like 5 years, which is incredible. However, some people were, so now, you know, my parents worked there. You know, my mom's a night shift nurse. She works 12 hours. My dad, he works 8 to 9 hours. But some people don't get that luxury, because in a way that is a luxury. And we have somebody to cut our grass. People who work a lot harder than that don't get that privilege. And like, yeah, okay, service you have to pay for, but like that is not fair. I still don't feel like, because those people don't get a minute of grace from the government. And all of these things that start with corporal punishment. I knew a kid in middle school. His name was Desai Wilfong. I will always remember that kid because I met him in 6th grade whenever I was taking computer class, like learning how to type and all those good things, and like short little coding lessons, He sat next to me. He was a new kid. He sat next to me in that class. And I thought he was kind of weird at first, I don't know. He was just like, he was very outgoing, and that kind of like, it didn't rub me the wrong way. Like I thought that he was like or something, but like, I wasn't feeling that energy. I was still like quiet and shy and stuff. And then, I sat next to him for more and more days, and I grew very fond of him. I thought that he had the sweetest smile ever, and not like in a way that I had a crush on him, but I was like, this kid is like really bright and really, really a gentle soul, and lights up a room if you know, if you can, like, if you understand without knowing anything about him, you know what I mean? Like, he's just a kid, and he's a little disruptive. He gets in trouble sometimes, and the teachers hated him. Like someone's talking in class, they automatically think it's him. Somebody threw something, they automatically think it's him. Like, the kid could never catch a break. He would get ISS all the time. He would get suspended all the time. But I thought that he was like a really, really nice kid, and I feel like they never really gave him a chance. I feel like they just automatically jumped to like, here's this like really harsh punishment that you are not going to learn from. You know what I mean? It's like, instead of telling the kid to like pick it up or something, and just like have him be a nice kid, like, like a more of a sit down conversation type of kid, not fear, not embarrassment. And that's what people do. And I'm not saying that's like strictly for Black people, but like it's the racially profiling of listening to rap music while driving. You are more likely to get like, like if you, like, you know what I mean? If you're doing something bad, like if you're just chilling and a cop hears you listening to rap music, like you're automatically on the radar. Like, oh, this guy listens to that kind of stuff. So like you're on the radar. Like, well, if they're listening to this, like what else are they into? And I might sound like I'm spewing nonsense, but like these are all things that like have a basis. Along with hostile architecture is the fact that they put spikes under bridges, they put bars on benches to stop homeless people from sleeping there. You can't get a job without an address. You need a phone these days, and sure, some homeless people have phones, but some people don't. So why not take the $10,000 out of our tax-paying money and give them to house a homeless person for a year? I'd be more than happy. Okay, I'm chilling. Like, that's what I want, but I don't want my money going to criminalizing people who are hardly able to do anything about their situation. Some people can come out of homelessness, but some people have a pretty hard, like, damn time. A lot of people, too many people. And I feel like the more that I see going on, and like, it is better to buy a new car for a few thousand more dollars than a cheap car or like a used car for a little less, because the value, like what you're getting out of your money for the new car is a lot more like worth it than what you get from your money buying a used car, if that makes any sense. And that's just kind of that's what my parents did. They bought me a newer car. They bought me one straight out of the dealership, 14,000 miles. And we did that because we had the luxury to spend a little more on a car. People don't really have that. My best friend down here, she doesn't have her license or her permit, and she's turning 18 in 3 months. This is because I'm gonna be honest, like, going to driver's class here is difficult. Like, you got to go to Shiloh or Wilmington. And that is an issue because my friend, she lives with her dad, and her dad has cancer. Her dad doesn't work. She works. She has to pay to live there. Her dad takes money out of her account without telling her. She has to walk to work and walks home from work at night. She started saving up for a car, but she doesn't even have a safe. She has to take her money out in cash. She doesn't have a place for it yet, so she just carries it in her wallet because she can't trust to leave it in her account because her dad will take money out of her account. So he doesn't drive her to and from to work already, which we live very close together. I know where she works. I've dropped her off. I've picked her up. Well, I haven't gotten the chance to pick her up, but I've dropped her off. I took her to her interview, and it's a 5-minute drive. You know, like, you don't have to leave the neighborhood type deal to get there. And she doesn't have any support from her dad. Yeah, he deals with cancer, but he can do that. But she is not fortunate. And her mom left her and took lots of money. And then her dad got sick and has been sick ever since. It is not fair, because I have known way too many people who were one step away from poverty and foster care. I have had way too many friends with only one parent. I have 2 friends that are without parents because either their dad left or their mom's in jail for being a drug addict and bringing drugs in and around the kids. So I really feel what she's talking about, because her struggles, where she came from, she was abused in foster care. She was in foster care. She got adopted and was raised by abusive parents. And that's kind of where it all started for her. There's not much more about it. But everything that she has done, everything that she's specializing in, everything that I've been talking about, she's pretty much gone through herself. It's all starting from what she's experienced. I hope I make sense. I hope I've made sense whenever I've talked about this. I gotta get ready for work. I really said I was gonna do this, but I gotta do mascara. I'm gonna be over here like, you know what I mean? So I hope I've made sense. I hope that this answered your question, because even though I went a little bit off topic, I definitely did probably more than some other people would. I know some people make some like really pretty presentations and all that, like Savannah and Junks, but like I put some thought and mind into this. I put a lot of thought and time into this, so I hope that this is good, and I hope that this gets me an A, because I know what I'm talking about. I don't make things up. You know what I mean? Like, even though I did know a couple statistics that I wish I did at the top of my head, I'm not lying. And that these are all things that you can fact check yourself, except for my personal experiences. But I have the same kind of passions. I have the same kind of passions that she does, all because of the personal experiences as well. I've always said, if I haven't gone through it myself, someone I love has. So those are my thoughts and opinions and some facts.